This is a main share meeting, and today it's with great pleasure, lots of gratitude that I welcome Anthony from BYOC, who's come to share for around 30 minutes. So over to you, Anthony.
Young, thank you so much. My name is Anthony, and I'm a real alcoholic, and I'm sitting watching the leaves fall this morning and watching you people, and I'm really grateful and happy this morning. My sobriety date is May 7th, 1996. I just looked it up. I have 9,679 days of continuous sobriety. And someone taught me that's my permanent sobriety date, right? Just like the people that got sober and recovered, most of them said cured, don't get upset by that, in the 1930s and 40s. May 7th, 1996, my permanent sobriety date. I recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. So Young asked me a while ago and then reminded me about a week ago that I was doing this. So I got my As Bill Sees It book out and was going through one by one. And let me go through why I picked this one. It says worshipers, right? I'm going to say, because I have the page open and we'll go to that. In Bill's story, it said, I had always believed in a power, capitalized, greater than myself. I have often pondered these things, and I was not an atheist. Few people really are. Few people really are. They say that so many times. We'll touch on some things in We Agnostics about that. But few people really are because, what We Agnostic really shows us is that we believe in something. Right? We worship something. So what does it say here? Worshippers. Well, we found that we had been indeed worshippers. Right? Shake your head. You'll probably get a neck ache if you shake your head the whole time that I say something that you identify with. Right? What a state of mental gooseflesh that used to bring on. Saying it's just phony junk. Had we not variously worshiped people, right? People, it could be husbands, wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, people with money, actors, athletes, I don't know, people. Had we not, people, sentiment, things, cars, watches, anybody, money. Oh, wait, we might talk about the money one a decent amount because I think it's going to bring on, I think it's already started to bring on a lot of pain, right? We were given a lot of money the last 20 years by governments and things of that nature, and it created a lot of wealth, and that seems to be disappearing. And this is the biggie, ourselves. So hadn't we worshipped ourselves? So when we get to We Agnostics, it's going to say reason, capitalized reason. Reason was our higher power. That's why it says nobody's really an atheist, right? Because we believe in ourselves, capitalized reason. I'll show you some things there that you probably never saw before, because I know for 18 years. So let me clear up a few things before we go on. So I'm sober for this 26, I guess it's like 26 and a half years now. And for the first 18 years, I hardly opened this big book. If I was at a big book meeting, they read a whole chapter. If you're like me, you have ADD and you get like 6 sentences into the chapter and you start thinking about your day and your job and what you're going to share. So you don't even hear anything, right? And the people that are reading are just reading it. They don't really know much about what they're reading either. And then at the end of that, everybody closes their book and they talk about their day, right? They talk about the holidays. They talk about the weather. They talk about money. I got a job. I lost a job. I need a job. I need a vacation. The shares, right? So who learned anything? So I didn't learn anything. And then 18 years in, I have terrible emotional breakdown. Sober, right? Because I've been acting like a jerk. But they gave me cake every year, even though I was acting like a jerk, because I said I was sober, right? I didn't even have to fill out any forms. There was no test, right? Nobody said, Anthony, were you kind this year? Or did you help anybody? Do you have a sponsee? They just said, it's May. Would you like to sign up? And you sign up, and then they let you talk for 20 minutes. You could have come to 6 meetings the whole year. Some people don't come to any meetings. And you get to talk for 10, 15 minutes. It was a good year. It was a bad year. You know the deal. Okay. I'm getting off track here, but I'm having some fun, right? So it says we worship ourselves. Let's put that one on hold for a second as we continue to read. So it says Hold on a second, I lost it. And then, with a better motive, had we not worshipfully beheld, you probably heard some of these things by some sponsors or guide people in AA. The sunset, the sea, a flower, great outdoors. Anybody hear that one? Like, it's like, instead of saying God, the great outdoors. I don't really believe in the God thing, but I like to go sit by a river and just watch the current stream down. That's my higher power. And it's like, they're sort of saying, Bill's sort of saying, and written people sort of saying, that's, you fill it in some junk, right, that you want. Who had not loved something or somebody? Were not these things the tissue? Tissue, what does tissue do, right? It breaks, it melts, it goes away. Tissue is not something to build a foundation on, like he uses that word so often. It was the tissue out of which our lives were constructed. Always building and construction stuff, Bill says, right? It's because it's all from the Bible. Did not these feelings, after all, determine the course of our existence? So these tissue, these phony feelings, this goose flesh determines my whole day, which determines my whole life, right? Pretty crazy. It was impossible to say that we had no capacity for faith or love or worship. In one form or another, we had been living by faith and little else. So I could say I'm an agnostic or I don't believe or this or that. But Bill, like they tell us in We Agnostics a lot, and we'll touch on it, is saying we really do have gods. We believe in something. Usually it's other people, it's stuff, and it's often ourself, our reason, our thinking. Right? So I said I was going to concentrate on pages 10 through 12. And now, who knew this, right? Bill gets us ready for We Agnostics. He says that stuff few people really are. I became irritated when they talked about this beautiful God, how his grandfather said he didn't want to listen. Anybody not want to listen? Anybody here not like to follow the directions completely? Like, I'll quote Russell Spatz. I love everything that it says to do in the big book, except the stuff that I don't want to do. Anybody identify with that? Yeah, who needs those directions? If I end up with a couple of extra parts for the vacuum and it doesn't work as well for the next 6 years, at least I got away with not following directions the last 20 minutes. Crazy, we're crazy, right? On 11, it talks about another high power. So anytime something's capitalized in our book or the other big book, right, or anything, it's a deity, right? It says brotherhood of man, capitalized. If there was a devil, capitalized, I'm in the middle of 11, he seemed boss universal. So Bill's telling us at the beginning the devil was his God, right? He's making no bones about it, right? He said, but my friend sat across from me, made the point of this declaration. God had done for him, this was Ebby, what he couldn't do for himself. His human will failed, right? His worship of himself and others. Like myself, he admitted complete defeat. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then if we turn to page 12, this is the prejudice that he's going to talk so much about in We Agnostics. Prejudice about God still aroused. When they brought up a God personal to me, the feeling was intensified, right? Like they're trying to tell you, pick your own God. We're not going to tell you which one to do. And I still get really mad at that, it says. I didn't like the idea. Now check this out when we talk about this group of drunks, G-O-D, right? Good outdoors, good orderly direction. Look what they're saying back here. Like they're telling us not to do that, yet they taught us to do that, 50 years later in AA. I didn't like the idea. I could go, just like Jim and Fred say, I could go for such conceptions as creative intelligence, right, capitalized, universal mind, capitalized, I'm on the top of 12, spirit of nature, capitalized. These are my gods. I'll go for those things. I'm not saying that God word. And you don't have to in AA these days. You could come in and say, don't talk about the God thing. Everybody's worried about the beginner. The beginner loves the God thing. But I resisted the thought of Czar of heavens, however loving his sway might be. right? And then look what he said. I had needed God, have him with me, all him, he, his presence, right? On the top of 13. There I humbly offered myself to God. Then I understood him. He would have me, his care, him. Without him, I was lost. Friend is capitalized. So that's where this whole book is going, right? That's what they're telling us. So two things I want to concentrate on. And Young, you let me know when I have like 5 minutes left, because like I'm really enjoying this already, and I don't know when I'm ever going to stop, right? I'm only kidding. So I've been listening to on Hallow app. There's been a priest doing something on exorcists, right? It's about sins, mainly about the devil and the whole bit. It's been like a daily thing for the last 7 days, and today he talked about the 7 deadly sins and the heavenly virtues. So I just want to touch on them, and then I want to talk about money for a little while, right? Maybe one of the things that we worship. So the deadly sins, and don't get upset about this, because they talk about it in the 12 and 12. So I'm sticking with approved literature stuff here. I'm not going off base, right? The 7 deadly sins that they mention when we're doing our inventory. So greed, lust, sloth, pride, envy, wrath, gluttony. Now, I'm sure none of you have those. It's probably just me, right? Greed, lust, sloth, pride, envy, wrath, and gluttony. But the heavenly virtues are what we use instead, right? These are the things that get us close to God. We worship these other things. So greed, the virtue is charity. Lust, the virtue is chastity. Sloth, the virtue is diligence. Pride, the virtue is humility. Envy, the virtue is kindness. I think kindness always wins, right? Wrath, patience, and a couple of these I suffer from. Gluttony is temperance, right? I heard someone say this morning, I was on Bob's call this morning, he said, humans have these minds. He said most animals and natures know exactly how much to eat to keep them healthy. And that's what they eat, right? And it says here temperance, and I think we need temperance with a lot of these things. So I just wanted to touch on that because that came up this morning. So yesterday there was one, I got a phone call from a guy I sponsored, or I don't even know what a sponsor is anymore, but a guy I took through the steps and got to recovered maybe about 5 years ago or so, 4 or 5 years ago, before the pandemic, and he was doing great. And, the pandemic happened, and I think this is happening a lot. And I think, it's our job, and that means your job, to be on the outlook and looking out for people that have gone away. I think so many people have gone away from this program, whether it be on Zoom or in person, because I go on Zoom, there's not as many people. Whenever I go to a meeting in person, there's nobody there. So where is everybody? Right? They're not coming, guys. I mean, it's just a fact. I'm not making that up, right? It's just proof, and I hear it all over the place. So where are they? So there was a guy that we got sober, same thing. At BYOC, we take people through the steps in days, 7 days, 6 days, 8 days, 12 days. There's a bunch of people on here that have that and have taken, we've taken, I think, thousands of people in the last couple of years. The pandemic for us worked out as a dream, right? We didn't plan it. We, wouldn't have planned it, but it worked out as a dream because we got in touch with people all over the world and were able to get them sober through this book really quickly, the way they used to do it, not our way. So this guy, wasn't coming anymore. You know the deal. How many people said, I don't really like that Zoom thing. I can't really get into that Zoom thing, which just means I don't, I got other stuff to do, right? I'm worshiping other things. So I finally got in touch with him, and he said, man, I've been crazy busy, right? Because we get busy with the things that we worship. I'm in real estate now, and I got crypto, and I'm doing stocks, and I'm doing all this stuff. And I'm like, I get it. Right? I am worshiping other things, and they are paying off, and life is good. You know what? I even believe in God. Things are so good, right? But I'm not coming. He didn't come to those meetings. Kept inviting him. Next thing we know, his wife's in touch, and he's in rehab. Right? Now, he's come back and done the steps with us again, and he seems like he's back on track. But that's optional. Right? I'm going to say this again. Most of the people that got sober and recovered and I'm going to use the word cured again because our Bill used it and Bob used it, right? Henrietta, the Lord has been so wonderful to me, curing me of this terrible disease. You can look on it. It's on page 191 in our big book. 191. I know some of you are going to look it up because you know I can't say cured. We can't say recovered. Oh, yeah, that's what they were saying. So they got cured and recovered and never drank again because they worked with other people, something we're also not doing. We think setting up the chairs and buying coffee and buying cake and balloons is service. Page 89 says practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. That's it. And we're not doing it. That's why everybody's drinking. That's why our first time in ever, right, our membership has gone down. I think it's gone down by a lot. That's just my view. So I'll wait for them to put out their official membership, right? But, you know, we went up crazy, crazy numbers over the years. And then I saw the number of 2 million in 1999. And then in 2017, I saw approximately 2 million. And if you don't think we lost 500,000 people in the last few years, I think that might even be more. So we'll get back to that. So what are people doing, right? They're not coming. They run out. Look, guys, I just have a bad feeling that, you know, we're going to have a bunch of years where money is taken away. We've been given it. It's become our higher power. And again, I'm not talking about you fine people. I'm sure you guys are very spiritually grounded, right? But money, right, has become one of those things that we worship. And it was almost like a drug fest of money the last few years. And in the last 8 months or so, they're taking it away. In fact, they're announcing that they're taking it away. So please be very careful about that situation. If you need any help with it, we'll be glad to help. But please look out for other people there, right? Young, how long do I have left, my friend?
About 10 minutes or so.
Perfect. So I'm going to mainly concentrate on we agnostics now. If you have a book, you know, what is we agnostics? If you listen to Sandy Beach, one of the guys that really turned around my sobriety when I was down before I, you know, learned about this big book, he says that we agnostics was one of the most beautifully spiritually written things of our world, of our lifetimes. I mean, it's that beautiful. Now, same thing. I had never read it before, right? I had maybe been at a meeting before, but I didn't realize that it said, you know, that it says on we start on page 44, right? Hoping against hope we weren't true alcoholics, to be doomed in alcoholic death or live on a spiritual basis. But what I really want to concentrate on and what we have people study is how many times God is mentioned and how many different ways it's mentioned. So anything that's capitalized, that's not to start a sentence, right, is God. That's what they're putting together here. So they use the word God, but it puts in here that we're so prejudiced, right? We were bothered, anti-religious, prejudice. We you know, I love it uses the word recovered at the top of 45. If I turn the page, skepticism is another word for you know, God, right? Again, we're fine with the whole God of reason. We're fine with the whole God of people. We're fine, whole God of job or whole, you know, whatever, right? And the world has said, don't really worry about God stuff, right? Everything goes against God. AA goes against God these days. But look what it says here. Supreme being, God, down at the bottom, creative intelligence, spirit of the universe, him, God, realm of spirit. And then it goes right back again, right? Do not let any prejudice you have against spiritual terms, defer you. God, right? And then it really brings in, what's the second step? Believe. I'm only going to do what I believe, right? So I'm letting you know, people have believed in stocks, crypto, and real estate the last bunch of years, right? It's me. I believe I'm going to wake up and do it all day, right? This book tells us I'm supposed to be doing this stuff all day, and then that other stuff will be fine, right? I'll have enough of things. Believe. All of 47. Believe, and it's great news, not just the good news. Bill tops it with great news. Top of 48, that obstinacy, sensitiveness, unreasoning prejudice, touchy, antagonism. It says all this stuff needs to be abandoned. right? Because when I'm believing in the other stuff, the gluttony, the food, the lust, the television, the politics. Oh my God, I'm so glad I don't like politics, right? But politics drive people crazy, right? And then it says it's fact. I need proof. Look on 49, all powerful, guiding, creative, intelligent. Uses 4 words to describe God there, right? And Bill says in the middle of 49, I'll read this to you. We who have traveled this dubious path, so they're talking about the first 100, beg you to lay aside prejudice, even against organized religion, Jan. Don't get upset, everybody. Karen from Germany. I see you smiling the whole time, you two guys. That's why I called on you. You guys are just sitting there smiling the whole meeting. It's pretty cool. People of faith, degree of stability. On page 51, the presence of God, believes in the power. Look at the bottom of 50. Look how many times power is capitalized. I went to a group very local to me that said the capital P in the second steps stands for the people in the rooms. And they would fight you about it. Like I wanted to vomit right after I learned what this was, because I probably agreed with them for 18 years. Right on page 99, 100, it says, remind the prospect that sobriety is not about other people. It's about his relationship with God. Remind the newcomer that, right? Unreasonable prejudice, biased, right? And then it talks about this whole thing of reason, right? On pages 52, 53, the bridge of reason, I can't get over it. Reason is, look how many times reason is capitalized in the bottom of 53. Because reason, our thinking, is our God. So nobody's really an atheist is what they're saying to you. Look at the top of 54. I wasn't making it up. It actually says God of reason. And what is Bill talking about, what we just read? Worshiping. This is what we just read from Bill's, right, from as Bill sees it. Worshipped, worshipfully, worship. Believed, reason. And then they go lowercase reason because they're really telling us that it doesn't really matter. Great reality. Right, this book, down at the bottom of page 55, just so you think I don't make stuff up, because I never make stuff up when I talk to you people. It's too important, right? I'm not going to give you my opinion on stuff, and if I do give you my opinion, I'll say, this is my opinion. 99.8% of the stuff, 99.873, I came up with that number, I think it's cool, right, is factual. I'm only going to tell you something that, I think is something maybe like about the population of A. In this book, you'll read the story of a man who thought he was an atheist. Bill's making such a point. We're not atheists. We're always going to believe and be powered by something. If it's the devil, we're going to pick, right, the 7 deadly sins. It's just that simple, right? And if I'm working with other people, right, even people that aren't in AA, when we help other people, our lives get better. When I'm thinking of myself, my life is not good. And I can't stop thinking about myself, Natalie. Chris, I can't stop thinking about myself. I have this dilemma. My life is going to be bad if I think about myself, but I can't stop doing it. So, right, what does it say on page 89? If there's a God, he hasn't done anything for me. This is still page on 56. Who do you say there is no God? All of a sudden, he fell to his knees and felt the presence of God. And then he felt the presence of infinite power and love. The whole 5 words is capitalized. They're talking about God, creator, right? Then at 57, and I'm almost done, God had restored his sanity. That's step 2. What does step 2 say? Came to believe that power greater than himself would restore us to sanity. Look what it says in the book. God restored his sanity. And then we go to step 3. He humbly offered himself to his maker. Who is your maker? It's not a gingerbread man. You're not a gingerbread person. You weren't made by a cookie, right? He offered himself to his maker. God restored us all to our right mind. Now look at the last 2 sentences of we agnostics. God is mentioned 5 times in those 2 sentences. But he, God, has come to all of us who have honestly sought him. When we drew near to him, God, he, God, disclosed himself, God, to us. I'm so happy to be here today, man. I hope I help one person, but I know that I help myself today. Life is good, man. Peace.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Great stuff. Thank you so much.